Thank you to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, DuckMachine, Try Again 95, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Feudic Jarl, Germanchemist, Casper Arnholtz, and Chaos to Must. Thank you very much.
Story number 1. Yet, written by Marco 2021. If you were to attempt to condense the sum of your entire species down to a single turn of phrase, what would it be? This is the question I pose to my xenocultural anthropology students at the start of every year, and it is a question on every final. You see, it sparks self-reflection and study. You must be willing to scrutinize yourself if you want to study the foreign and unknown. At the start, it is very rare to receive a duplicate answer. However, over time, it is often the case that my students will come to the consensus about their phrase, and soon they will answer the same to my question. I find interest in that as an educator, especially since there is no way to qualify a correct answer. Occasionally, a student will answer once and remain with that singular answer for the entirety of the year. However, thematically, these students are mere statistical outliers. These students typically fall into a specific category of sapient that is merely unlikely to change its stance on any topic unless confronted with stimuli that necessitate change. Or to phrase it another way, they don't change unless they have no other choice. Rarer still are the students whose answer changes with the day and mood. Forgive me for naming favorites, but these students always are. Whether it is because they are free thinkers or just lazy academics, these students give me the most honest, in-the-moment responses. Once engaged properly, I receive truly astounding work from these students. Most of my teaching assistants have been drawn from this pool. However, the rarest of answers is wholly from the species I studied from my doctoral thesis, humans. Most of my human students will answer at least once, by the end of the year, that I ask the impossible. They are right, of course, but still to them I say, I've already heard their phrase. Now for those of you with a passing familiarity with history, really, at this level there should be almost all of you, will realize that my people have waged war with the humans. My government's confederacy lays siege to their government's federation. It was then, over 50 standard cycles ago, that I met my first human. At the time, I was enlisted with my military for an education grant. Some of you out there are pretty familiar with the concept, having served. 6 cycles for 6 cycles, clever and catchy in my native language, but also an incredible value given the costs involved. Some of you are looking a little confused, and I'm assuming it is because your translator software is not making a distinction between confederacy and federation. It is a mistake, I understand well, as the mistranslation is a large part of why we failed to understand the magnitude of our opponents we faced. In short, the Confederacy was built upon my people, bringing many client races under its umbrella. We were the strongest and added our client races to our forces in order to cover our shortfalls. An alliance of supposedly equal parties. In truth, they shared in our technology and successes, but were secondary and expendable to our goals. The Federation, in contrast, is a binding of many governments into one centralized purpose. Any one member can be counted upon to both take care of itself and protect its fellows, but we didn't see them that way. Their word for their alliance translated is equal to our own. We assumed the elder species was like ours, strongest, and the rest were clients, weaker, expendable. We believed that the eldest race of the Federation had left the evacuation of civilians from combat zones to the humans because it was of lesser importance. It was on that deployment that I met my first human, and he spoke the phrase that has encapsulated their entire culture for me. He and his squad kept us from advancing for several revolutions. They occupied a block of buildings that gave them cover and advantage along the constructed corridors of the urban landscape. For days, we tried to push the theater of combat forward, and for days, they prevented it. We were frustrated. Finally, we did what we thought we had to. We collapsed the building. We did not expect survivors, let alone a survivor that crawled out of the wreckage under his own power. But there he was, on his hands and knees, was clenched around a piece of metal used as construction material. He had seen us coming, of course. He had no reason to hide. We had won this engagement. We expected his surrender. That was proper of the defeated. He would be treated well. That was proper of the victor. My commander demanded his surrender. The human struggled to his standing position, metal clenched tightly in his hand. He limped forward, coughing from his injuries. He refused. Why? My commander demanded. Why do you still fight to protect these civilians from capture? Because, he growled at us, I am not dead yet. The human struck faster than any of us expected. Surrounded and injured as he was, we did not see him as a threat. He had gotten close. He killed my commander and 2 others with a stick of metal before we managed to shoot him. It wouldn't be long before that determination changed the tide of that conflict. We are, after all, now a part of the Federation, and I understand the difference of vocabulary better. I see your looks of confusion. I speak of my service without shame. Is it dissonant, isn't it? To hear your co-worker, a fellow professor, speaking of such violence as he has committed in the past. Truly, I understand, but that topic is not the purpose of this seminar. The purpose is that phrase. Even now, my human colleagues are likely shaking their head in denial. That can't possibly be the entirety of their people. You cannot reduce their entire culture into those 5 words. I agree, and yet I look upon their history as a true outside observer, fully matured under a culture alien to their own. They're ancient warriors who sought physical perfection of self and craft. Why did they do this? Because they were not dead yet. They're artists who put word to song, paint to canvas, or word to page in the hopes of capturing the truth of that fleeting moment. Why? Because they're not dead yet. They're hurt, struggling to find purpose in a world so loud they scream to avoid drowning in obscurity. And yet, they continue, seeking the sticks to let them fight forward for a better day, because they are not dead yet. True, the motivations will often accompany those 5 words, but they are there, running like an undercurrent to every moment. I hope that you will go on into this year, teaching your students with this passion. Teach them of the past so that the effort of their elders is not wasted. Encourage them to discover the answers to the mysteries yet unfound, because that human didn't just speak words that encapsulated their own culture. He spoke words that can define us all. We thrive because we are not dead yet. To act any other way is tantamount to surrender of your future. I know some of you will find merit in this instruction. Of course we live because we are not dead. It is like applying circular logic to the meaning of life itself. Laughable at even the best at times. However, teach with this kind of defined passion, and I promise you'll inspire your students to heights that you cannot even dream that they will reach. End of story. Story number 2. Please do not touch. Written by Kaiser 5243. There is a human on my ship. It sits there, big gun on its hip. I suppose it is nice, but it does have one vice. It must touch everything, no matter the price. We traverse the lands, building research stands, but one rule is too much. Human, please do not touch. As we traverse the woods, heads deep into our hoods. Hey, look at that, the man spouts a cat. The cat is not small, in fact it's quite tall, dangerous looking and long teeth and claw. We should away, I cautiously say, but the human is off with naught but a scoff. It's just a big kitty, and isn't she pretty? Please do not touch that, it's not a house cat, but like a banal singer's. The human now has 4 fingers. This happens quite often, but the resolve does not soften, and they find themselves injured quite often. Be it screeches or leeches or flamboyant peaches, he touches them all, despite my speeches. He ignores all my warnings and all my teachings. So if you find yourself with a new human in your clutch, don't waste your breath with please do not touch. End of story.
And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed.